I thought my second marriage was perfect until my wife kissed her ex at a party while her friends filmed and cheered. But when she posted revenge videos online and told me, "Every girl cheats," I realized I've been living with a stranger all along. My name is Elias Thorne. I'm 45 years old, and I own 6 Golden Fork restaurant franchises across 3 regions of the country. I've got Arthur, my 16-year-old son from my first marriage, and Eliza, my 8-year-old daughter, with my current wife, Ingrid. Well, soon-to-be ex-wife, but we'll get to that nightmare soon enough. I married Ingrid 3 years ago, thinking I'd hit the jackpot. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in building a life together. She quit her job as a dental hygienist and became a stay-at-home mom to Eliza. The problem started small. Little comments about how Arthur was too needy when he'd call or visit, suggestions that maybe I was spending too much money on his college fund. Nothing dramatic enough to cause a fight, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. Then came the social media obsession. Ingrid lived on Instagram and Facebook, posting every meal, every outfit, every thought. She'd spend hours crafting the perfect caption, checking likes and comments like a stock trader watching the market. When I'd mentioned taking a break from her phone during family dinners, she'd laugh and call me old-fashioned. The real warning sign was how she talked about her past relationships. According to Ingrid, every ex-boyfriend was either abusive, controlling, or couldn't handle a strong, independent woman. She painted herself as the perpetual victim. I bought into it completely, thinking I was different. What I didn't know was that Ingrid had a 22-year-old son named Lucas, living with his father, Dirk Olson. She'd mentioned having a difficult relationship with an ex, but left out the part about abandoning her firstborn when he was 3. The turning point came 6 months ago when Eleanor Davies, my regional operations manager, pulled me aside after a quarterly review meeting. Eleanor is one of those straight-shooting women who doesn't sugarcoat anything. "Elias, I need to tell you something," Eleanor said. "I saw Ingrid having lunch with some guy yesterday at the bistro. They looked pretty cozy for a business meeting." I felt my stomach drop. "Maybe it was just a friend," I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew how naive they sounded. Eleanor shook her head. "I've been married for 20 years. I know the difference between friends having lunch and something else. Just keep your eyes open." Okay. That night, I asked Ingrid about her day. She told me she'd spent the afternoon shopping and running errands, never mentioning any lunch meetings. When I casually brought up the bistro, she said she'd never heard of the place. That's when I knew Eleanor was right to be concerned. Eleanor's warning hit me like a freight train, but I tried to convince myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe Ingrid was planning some kind of surprise for me or meeting with someone about freelance work. I wanted to believe my wife wasn't capable of deception, but the doubt was eating me alive. I decided to do some digging without confronting Ingrid directly. The next morning, after she dropped Eliza at school, I called the bistro and asked if they had security cameras in their dining area. The manager, probably thinking I was some kind of investigator, told me they kept footage for 30 days, but couldn't share it without a court order. That afternoon, I drove past the bistro during what would have been lunch hour, hoping to spot Ingrid's silver hatchback in the parking lot. Nothing. But as I was leaving, I noticed a familiar car, a black BMW that belonged to Julian Vance, one of the guys from Ingrid's old crowd. We'd met him at a few parties, and something about him always rubbed me the wrong way. Too charming, too interested in other men's wives. I sat in my car for 20 minutes watching the restaurant entrance. Sure enough, Ingrid and Julian walked out. Together, laughing about something. She touched his arm as they talked. The kind of casual intimacy that married women shouldn't have with other men. They stood by his car for another 10 minutes, and I watched my wife lean against the driver's side door while he stood close enough to whisper in her ear. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, I thought of my brake. This wasn't a business meeting or innocent friendship. This was something else entirely. When Ingrid came home that evening, she seemed different, happier, more energetic than she'd been in months. She hummed while making dinner. She actually put her phone down during our meal. For a brief moment, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. "How was your day?" I asked, keeping my voice casual. Ingrid smiled brightly. "Oh, just the usual errands. Grocery shopping." Picked up Eliza from school. Pretty boring, actually. No mention of the bistro. No mention of Julian. Just lies wrapped up in that perfect smile. That night, after Ingrid fell asleep, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. She'd always been careless about her passcode, using Eliza's birthday for everything. My heart pounded as I scrolled through her text messages. Most of them were harmless conversations with other moms, scheduling appointments, shopping lists. But there was a thread with someone listed as Jay that made my blood run cold. Had such a good time today, one message read. Can't wait to see you again. The response came back quickly. Same here. You looked beautiful as always. Elias is working late tomorrow. We could meet at the usual place. Perfect. I'll bring that wine you like. I felt sick to my stomach. The usual place. This wasn't their first meeting, maybe not even their 10th. How long had this been going on? How many lies had I swallowed? I took screenshots of the conversation and put the phone back where I found it. As I lay there in the dark, listening to my wife breathe peacefully beside me, I realized I was sleeping next to a stranger. The woman I married, the mother of my daughter, was living a double life. The next morning, I called Eleanor and asked if she could recommend a private investigator. I needed proof of what I already knew in my heart. Ingrid was cheating, and I was going to find out exactly how deep the betrayal went. The private investigator I hired, a former cop named Klaus Richter, worked fast. Within a week, he had photos, videos, and a complete timeline of Ingrid's affair with Julian Vance. 3 months of regular meetings, expensive gifts, and hotel room encounters. The evidence was damning, but I decided to wait before confronting her. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. The perfect opportunity came when Julian invited us to his housewarming party. Ingrid had been excited about it for weeks, spending hours shopping for the perfect outfit. She chose a black dress that was more appropriate for a nightclub than a suburban party, but I kept my mouth shut. The party was packed with people from Ingrid's social circle, most of whom I barely tolerated. Julian played the perfect host, making sure everyone had drinks and acting like the charming bachelor he pretended to be. What bothered me was how comfortable Ingrid seemed around him, like they shared some private joke the rest of us weren't on. As the evening progressed, I watched my wife transform. She became more animated, more flirtatious, touching Julian's arm when she laughed at his stories. Her friends Saskia and Helena seemed to be encouraging her behavior, whispering in her ear and giggling like teenagers. Around 10 o'clock, after several drinks, Ingrid's inhibitions completely disappeared. I was talking to another guest when I heard Saskia shout, "Do it! Prove you're not some suburban housewife." I turned around to see Ingrid pressed against Julian by the kitchen island, their faces inches apart. The entire room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching like this was prime entertainment. Helena had her phone out recording everything while Saskia cheered them on. "Show everyone who you really are, Ingrid," Helena yelled. And that's when my wife kissed another man in front of 30 people, including me. It wasn't a quick peck or an accidental brush of lips. It was a passionate, deliberate kiss that went on for what felt like an eternity. When they finally separated, Ingrid looked directly at me across the room and smiled. Not an apologetic, embarrassed smile, but a triumphant one that said she'd finally stopped pretending to be someone she wasn't. The room erupted in cheers and laughter. Several people were recording now, capturing my humiliation for posterity. I stood there frozen, watching my marriage dissolve in real time while a room full of strangers treated it like entertainment. "It's just a party game," Ingrid called out to me, her voice slightly slurred. "Don't be such a prude, Elias." That's when I did something that surprised even me. I walked over to Julian, looked him in the eye, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Enjoy the show, folks. But remember, you're watching a married woman with an 8-year-old daughter at home." Then I left. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match, just a quiet exit that spoke louder than any tantrum could have. My phone started buzzing before I reached my car. Text after text from Ingrid, each one more defensive than the last. It was just a joke. "You're overreacting. Come back and stop embarrassing me." But I kept driving, knowing that the woman I'd married had just shown everyone exactly who she really was. The real assault began after I got home. While I sat in my empty house, Trying to process what I'd witnessed, Ingrid launched her counterattack through social media. My phone kept buzzing with notifications as she posted story after story on Instagram, each one designed to twist the knife deeper. The first video showed her dancing with some guy I didn't recognize, grinding against him while her friends cheered in the background. The caption read, "When your husband tries to control you, but you remember you're a grown woman." She tagged Saskia and Helena, who immediately started commenting with fire emojis and "Yes, Queen" responses. The second post was even worse, a selfie of her and Julian with a caption, "Sometimes you need to remind yourself what happiness looks like." His arm was around her waist, and they both looked smugly satisfied with themselves. But the third video made my blood boil. It showed her accepting drinks from multiple men, laughing and flirting like she was single. The caption read, "This is what happens when you try to control me. I do whatever I want." Each post got worse, more vindictive, more calculated to hurt me. She was documenting her revenge in real time, making sure I saw every moment of her rebellion. The comments from her friends were just as poisonous, calling me controlling and possessive, saying she deserved better. Around midnight, she posted a video that crossed every line imaginable. She was slow dancing with Julian again, her head on his shoulder, looking more intimate with him than she'd been with me in months. The caption simply read, "Some people just understand you." I screenshot everything before the stories expired. If she wanted to play games, I'd make sure there was evidence of every move she made. She stumbled through the front door at 3 o'clock in the morning, reeking of alcohol and cologne that definitely wasn't mine. Her makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled, and she had that post-party glow that comes from doing things you shouldn't. "Hey, baby," she slurred, trying to act casual. "You missed a great party." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been researching divorce attorneys. Did I? Because from what I saw on your Instagram, it looked more like a casting call for a reality show. Ingrid flopped down on the couch beside me, apparently oblivious to how badly she destroyed our marriage in the span of a few hours. "Don't be dramatic, Elias. It was just harmless fun." "Harmless fun," I repeated. "Is that what we're calling making out with other men now?" She rolled her eyes. "One kiss, Elias. One kiss at a party where everyone was drunk and having fun. You act like I committed murder. What about the videos, the captions, the comments about how I try to control you?" Ingrid shrugged, her defiance still intact despite the alcohol. "Maybe if you trusted me more, I wouldn't feel the need to prove my independence." That's when she said the words that would haunt me for weeks. "Look, Elias, every woman cheats at some point. At least I did it where you could see it instead of sneaking around behind your back." I stared at her, trying to process the casual way she just admitted to cheating and made it sound like a favor to me. "Get out," I said quietly. "What? Get out of my house now." Ingrid didn't leave that night. Instead, she passed out on the couch, still in her party dress, reeking of alcohol and betrayal. I spent the morning in my home office calling Isabella Moreau, the divorce attorney Eleanor had recommended. Isabella was a no-nonsense woman who'd built her reputation destroying cheating spouses in court. "I've seen the photos your investigator sent," Isabella said during our phone consultation. "This is going to be straightforward. The law is no fault, but adultery affects asset division and custody arrangements." When Ingrid finally woke up around noon, she tried to act like nothing had happened. She made coffee, asked about Eliza's school schedule, and even suggested we plan a family vacation. The audacity was breathtaking. "We need to talk about last night," she said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. I didn't respond. I decided that morning to implement complete radio silence. No arguments, no explanations, no emotional reactions, just cold, professional distance. "Elias, I know you're upset, but you're blowing this out of proportion," Ingrid continued. "It was one kiss at a party. People do stupid things when they're drinking." I kept reading my newspaper, not acknowledging her presence. "Are you seriously going to ignore me? That's your solution to our problems." Still nothing from me. This went on for 3 days. Ingrid would try different approaches: tears, anger, seduction attempts. But I remained completely unresponsive. I spoke to Eliza when she was around, maintained normal conversations with Arthur, but treated Ingrid like she was invisible. By day 4, she was starting to panic. I could see it in her eyes, the way she watched me when she thought I wasn't looking. For the first time in our marriage, she couldn't control the narrative or manipulate my emotions. "My friends think you're being childish," she announced on Friday morning, clearly hoping to provoke a reaction. I picked up my keys and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she called after me. "To work," I said, the first words I'd spoken to her in 4 days. At the office, Eleanor filled me in on some interesting developments. "I did some checking on Julian Vance," she said. "Turns out he's been involved with at least 3 other married women in the past 2 years. There's a pattern here." That afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Dirk Olsen, the father of Ingrid's secret son. It was time to learn about the woman I'd really married. "She abandoned us when Lucas was 3, Dirk told me over the phone. Said she needed to find herself and couldn't handle the responsibility of motherhood. Left us with nothing but debt and broken promises." "Did she ever cheat during your marriage?" I asked. Dirk laughed bitterly. "Constantly. Always with men who could offer her something I couldn't. Money, excitement, social status. She treated our marriage like a temporary arrangement until something better came along. The pattern was becoming clear. Ingrid wasn't just unfaithful. She was a serial user who moved from one man to the next, always looking for the bigger, better deal. When I got home that evening, Ingrid was waiting with Eliza's overnight bag. "I'm taking Eliza to my mother's for the weekend," she announced. "Maybe some time apart will help you get perspective." "Eliza stays here," I said calmly. "Excuse me. Eliza is not leaving this house with you. If you want to go to your mother's, feel free. But my daughter stays here." For the first time, Ingrid looked genuinely afraid. She was starting to realize that her usual tactics weren't working and that I might actually have some power in this situation. The weekend without Ingrid was peaceful. Eliza and I baked cookies, watched movies, and had honest conversations about why Mommy seemed upset lately. I kept my explanations age-appropriate, but I could see that my 8-year-old daughter was picking up on the tension. Arthur came over on Sunday, and we had a long talk about what was happening. At 16, he was old enough to understand the basics of the situation. "I never liked her," Arthur admitted. "She always made me feel like I was in the way." "You were never in the way, son. Remember that." Ingrid returned Sunday night in a foul mood. Her mother had apparently given her an earful about her behavior, and she was looking for someone to blame. She found me in the kitchen making dinner for Eliza. "We need to resolve this," Ingrid said. "I can't live with someone who refuses to communicate." I continued cooking without acknowledging her. "Fine," she snapped. "If you want to play games, I can play games, too." The next morning, I woke up to find Ingrid gone and half her joint savings account emptied. She'd taken Eliza to school and then disappeared. When I called the school, they confirmed that Ingrid had tried to check Eliza out early, claiming a family emergency. Fortunately, I'd already contacted them about not releasing Eliza to anyone without my permission. My phone started buzzing around noon. Text after text from Ingrid, each one more desperate than the last. "You forced me to take the money. I'm not some victim you can control. Eliza deserves a mother who fights for her. I know things about your business that could ruin you." The threats were escalating. This wasn't about saving our marriage anymore. This was about power and control. That afternoon, Eleanor came in my office with some disturbing news. "Ingrid called corporate this morning," she said. "She told them you've been embezzling franchise fees and using company resources for personal expenses. The allegations were completely false, but they could damage my reputation while the investigation was ongoing. Ingrid was trying to destroy my livelihood out of spite." "There's more," Eleanor continued. "She also called Arthur's school and told them you've been physically abusive toward her. They're required to report suspected domestic violence." I felt my world spinning out of control. In one morning, Ingrid had attacked my business, my finances, and my relationship with my son. She was scorched earth destructive, determined to hurt me in every way possible. That evening, she showed up at the house with Eliza, acting like nothing had happened. "Daddy, Mommy says we might have to move to Grandma's house," Eliza said, looking confused and scared. "Eliza, go to your room and start your homework," I said gently. Mommy and I need to talk. Once Eliza was upstairs, I turned to face my wife. You've crossed lines today that can't be uncrossed. I don't know what you mean, Ingrid said innocently. The false accusations, the stolen money, the attempt to kidnap Eliza. I know exactly what you've been doing. Ingrid's mask finally slipped completely. You want to play hardball, Elias? You have no idea who you're dealing with. I will destroy you before I let you throw me away like garbage. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Every secret you think you're hiding, every mistake you've ever made, I'll make sure everyone knows about it. Your business partners, your friends, your son's school, they'll all know what kind of man you really are. I looked at this woman, the mother of my daughter, and realized I was staring at someone capable of genuine evil. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was vindictive, manipulative, and completely without conscience. Get out of my house, I said quietly. This is my house too. Not anymore. The divorce papers will be filed tomorrow morning. The divorce papers hit Ingrid like a sledgehammer when a process server found her at Saskia's house 3 days later. She called me immediately, her voice shaking with panic. Elias, please don't do this, she pleaded through the phone. We can work this out. I'll do anything. I'd heard this song before. Anything except tell the truth or take responsibility for your actions. I made mistakes. Okay, I admit that. But you're throwing away 3 years of marriage over one night. One night, Ingrid? Klaus Richter has photos of you with Julian going back 3 months. Silence. Then in a smaller voice, how long have you known? Long enough to document everything. The hotel receipts, the lies about where you were, the money you stole from our account. I never stole anything. $4,300 in cash withdrawals to pay for your affair. What would you call it? The desperation in her voice ratcheted up another notch. Elias, please think about Eliza. Think about what this will do to her. I am thinking about Eliza. That's why I'm getting her away from a mother who thinks cheating is acceptable behavior. Every girl cheats. Ingrid suddenly screamed into the phone. Every woman has needs that her husband can't meet. At least I was honest about it. There was again her twisted logic that made infidelity sound like a public service. The only honest thing you've done is show me who you really are, I said. Isabella will be in touch about the custody arrangements. Don't do this, she whispered. Please don't destroy our family. I hung up. Within an hour, my phone exploded with panicked voice messages from her. 23 calls in rapid succession, each one more frantic than the last. Elias, pick up the phone. I'm begging you. Don't file those papers. We have a daughter together. You can't just throw that away. I'll end the thing with Julian. I'll do whatever you want. Please. I'm scared. I don't know what I'll do without you and Eliza. The messages kept coming throughout the night. By morning, there were 47 voicemails, each one a masterclass in manipulation and desperation. She cycled through every emotion: anger, grief, bargaining, threats, and back to pleading. But I'd learned to recognize the performance. This wasn't remorse. It was panic about losing her meal ticket and her social status as my wife. The final message, sent at 4 a.m., revealed her true priorities. Elias, if you do this, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Every business contact, every friend, everyone will know about your gambling problem and the money you owe. Except I didn't have a gambling problem, and I didn't owe anyone money. She was making up lies, preparing to destroy my reputation if I didn't back down. That's when I knew I'd made the right decision. Isabella Moreau moved fast. Within a week, she'd filed for divorce, requested emergency custody of Eliza, and frozen all marital assets. Ingrid's desperate attempts to control the narrative were falling apart. She tried enlisting her friends as character witnesses, but Saskia and Helena's social media posts from the party worked against her. Video evidence of them encouraging her to kiss Julian and cheering her on didn't exactly support her claim that she was the victim of peer pressure. The turning point came when Dirk Olsen agreed to testify about Ingrid's abandonment of their son, Lucas. His testimony would establish a pattern of selfish behavior that made her unfit for primary custody. She walked out on a 3-year-old, Dirk told Isabella during a deposition. Left me with all the responsibilities and never looked back. Lucas still asks why his mother doesn't love him. Ingrid's lawyer tried to argue that her past mistakes didn't reflect her current abilities as a mother, but the evidence was overwhelming. The affair, the financial theft, the false accusations against me. It all painted a picture of someone whose priorities didn't include her children's well-being. The final blow came when Eleanor testified about Ingrid's attempts to sabotage my business. She called our corporate office with false allegations about embezzlement. Eleanor told Judge Fontaine she was willing to destroy her husband's livelihood out of spite. During the custody hearing, Ingrid broke down completely. "I love Eliza more than anything," she sobbed. "I made mistakes, but I'm still her mother." Judge Fontaine wasn't impressed. "Mrs. Wells, you documented your own infidelity on social media, stole money from joint accounts, and made false allegations against your husband's character. This court's primary concern is the welfare of the child. I was awarded primary custody of Eliza, with Ingrid getting supervised visitation every other weekend. The house, the business assets, and most of our savings stayed with me. She'd gambled everything on her affair and lost." As we left the courthouse, Ingrid grabbed my arm one last time. "You've destroyed everything," she hissed. "I hope you're happy." "I'm protecting my daughter from someone who thinks marriage vows are optional," I replied. "That's what good fathers do." 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Ingrid had moved in with Julian. The relationship lasted exactly 3 weeks before he kicked her out. Apparently, he was only interested in other men's wives, not available women with baggage. Eliza adjusted better than I'd expected. She missed her mother, but she also seemed relieved to live in a house without constant drama and tension. "Daddy," she asked one evening while we were making dinner together, "why did Mommy stop loving us?" "Sweetheart, sometimes adults make choices that hurt the people they're supposed to protect. But that doesn't mean it's your fault, and it doesn't mean you're not lovable. Will you ever get married again?" I thought about that question for a moment. Maybe someday, but only to someone who understands that family comes first. As I tucked Eliza into bed that night, I realized we were both going to be just fine. 2 years after the divorce, life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Eliza was thriving in 4th grade. Arthur had started college on a full scholarship, and my restaurant franchises were more profitable than ever. The chaos Ingrid had brought into our lives was just a distant memory. Eleanor had been promoted to regional director and remained one of my closest friends. She'd been instrumental in helping me rebuild my reputation after Ingrid's false allegations. The corporate investigation had cleared me completely, and my business relationships were stronger than before. "You seem happy," Eleanor observed during one of our monthly business dinners. "Really happy, not just pretending to be okay." She was right. For the first time in years, I woke up looking forward to each day instead of dreading whatever drama might unfold. Eliza had adjusted remarkably well to our new life. She still saw Ingrid during supervised visits, but those meetings had become increasingly sporadic. Ingrid's life had spiraled after losing custody. She burned through 3 different jobs and 2 more relationships. "Daddy, why does Mommy always seem sad when I see her?" Eliza asked one evening. "Sometimes adults make choices that don't lead to happiness, sweetheart, but that's not your responsibility to fix." The biggest surprise was reconnecting with my own sense of purpose. Without constant relationship drama, I'd rediscovered my passion for business and community involvement. I joined a school board and started mentoring young entrepreneurs. Arthur called regularly from college, finally free to have an honest relationship with me without Ingrid's interference. "I'm proud of how you handled everything, Dad," he told me recently. "You showed me what real strength looks like." Last month, I'd started dating Clara, a teacher at Eliza's school. She was kind, genuine, and understood the importance of putting children first. More importantly, she had no interest in social media drama or playing games with people's emotions. "Take it slow," Eleanor had advised. "You've earned the right to be selective." The restaurant business was booming. I'd opened 2 new locations and was considering expanding into neighboring states. Success felt different now, more meaningful because it wasn't being undermined by someone who resented my achievements. Ingrid had tried reaching out several times over the past year, usually when she was between jobs or relationships. Each message followed the same pattern. Initial pleasantries followed by requests for money or attempts to renegotiate custody arrangements. I'd learned to recognize her cycles of manipulation and maintain strict boundaries. All communication went through Isabella Moreau, and I never responded to direct contact attempts. The most important lesson I've learned was trusting my instincts. All those red flags I'd ignored during our marriage had been accurate warnings. I'd never again dismiss my gut feelings for the sake of keeping peace with someone who didn't deserve my consideration. Eliza and I had built something solid together. A home based on honesty, respect, and genuine love. That was worth more than any relationship built on lies and manipulation. 5 years post-divorce, I was standing in my backyard watching Eliza practice soccer with her new stepmother, Clara. We'd married the previous spring in a small ceremony that focused on family rather than spectacle. Clara had brought stability and joy into our lives. She understood that Eliza would always be my priority, and she'd never try to replace Ingrid or create drama about our blended family. Arthur had graduated college and landed a great job in Denver. He visited frequently and had developed a genuine friendship with Clara. "She's nothing like Ingrid," he'd observed after our wedding. "She actually cares about other people." The restaurant empire had grown to 12 locations across 3 states. Eleanor and I had become business partners, combining her operational expertise with my expansion vision. Our professional relationship had evolved into something approaching family. Ingrid's supervised visits had ended 2 years ago when she stopped showing up consistently. Eliza had been sad initially, but she'd found peace with the situation. "I have you and Clara now," she'd said. "That's enough family for me." Last I'd heard, Ingrid was living in a flat in the South with another man she'd met online. Some people never learn from their mistakes. They just find new victims to repeat old patterns with. The house was filled with laughter and honest communication. Clara and Eliza had bonded over cooking and art projects. There were no hidden agendas or manipulation tactics, just genuine relationships built on mutual respect. "Dad, Clara's teaching me how to make pasta from scratch," Eliza called out as they came inside from practice. "Sounds messy," I replied, grinning. "The best cooking always is," Clara said, kissing my cheek. That evening, as we sat down to Eliza's homemade dinner, I reflected on how different life had become. No walking on eggshells, no lies, no financial theft, no social media drama, just real people building something authentic together. Arthur called during dessert to share news about a promotion at work. "I'm thinking about proposing to Helena's sister," he told us. "But I want to make sure I choose someone who values family the way you taught me, Dad." "Trust your instincts," I advised. "If she treats you with respect and shares your values, you're probably making a good choice." Later that night, Clara and I talked about having children together. Eliza was excited about the possibility of siblings, and I was ready to experience parenthood with someone who actually wanted to be a mother. "Are you sure you want to start over with diapers at 50? Clara teased. "With the right partner, everything's easier the second time around." As I turned off the lights and locked the doors, I felt grateful for the hard lessons Ingrid had taught me. Her betrayal had been devastating, but it had also freed me to find something real. The man who'd been manipulated and gaslit for 3 years was gone, replaced by someone who knew his worth and wouldn't settle for anything less than genuine love and respect. Eliza, Clara, and I had built the kind of family I'd always wanted. One based on truth, loyalty, and putting each other's well-being first. That was worth every painful moment it had taken to get here.